With that, I welcome Cindi.
Thank you.
Sorry, Cindi, I forgot you needed to screen.
They could imagine it all. Good morning. Thank you for coming out. I was torn. I have a pajama top that says Namaste in bed. So I understand for those folks who decide to stay home sometimes. But then I always feel like we're Minnesotans, Doesn't that give you like a certain kind of tenacity or strength? Yeah, we're resilient. So, seems a little dark.
It's warming up.
So am I. Yeah, so thank you. For people who haven't ever been here before, each speaker does things differently. And this month's topic is on multidimensionality. And I've come and listened to the other speakers, and so maybe I'll just do a little recap of what I took away a little bit from each person that I think then takes us to another step today, because we're all going to, as speakers, we get a topic, and then we get to do whatever we want to do with it. This topic happens to be one I truly love, yeah, that's okay, baby. She already lives it. She doesn't have to talk about it. She's closer to it. And so we had Yvette at the beginning of the month, and she talked a lot about, in my reality, because a lot of you guys were there, but she helped us to identify these different aspects of ourselves that get developed and start working in our lives that we might not even be aware of, like these alter personalities of the protector, the ego, the victim, I can't even remember them all, but we had about 12 of them. And she asked us to kind of go into the personality of each of those things and tell us what their jobs are, And so we told what jobs it was, and then how did it feel to have that job. So, of course, all of those jobs are very busy, and they're all, I think, things that are about protecting us. So then the next speaker we had was Jody, and she always is going to talk about light. She's very funny, light, humor. And so she talked a lot about the light that we have, and that if we keep increasing our light, then our life goes easier. And then last week's speaker, Gear, spoke a lot about, she'd done a lot of work in the Course in Miracles and talked a lot about having faith. Just how every time in her life she's had many different experiences where stuff just works out. And having the faith and the belief that there's something orchestrating things. So today I decided, that I would kind of talk a little bit about how do we access that which seems beyond what we experience here, to kind of go into the world of the unseen a bit, and then hopefully have some practicality to ground it as we are here in the seen world. So the unseens to me, can be what your beliefs are, maybe guides or maybe angels or God or whatever your archetypes are that you use, whether they're animals or, there's so many different things. But I'll kind of lay out how my evolution or my thoughts about where we start and where we're going happen so that you can see things. And I tend to do stuff with pictures a lot because for me, pictures really help to create it allows us to get our head around something. So, You have to bear with me each time I speak. So this is my mom and dad. They look pretty ordinary, don't they? Yeah. So I did come from grounded people. And the way I speak sometimes may not seem so. But really grounded people. And my dad, when he was younger, he'd had a near-death experience. And so he always had this belief that there was more to us, but he didn't have a full near-death experience where he wasn't like meeting the presence of the Creator or that kind of thing. But he experienced himself out of his body. So therefore, he loved to go up in an airplane. He loved that feeling because it reminded him of that formless, streaming kind of nature. My mom grew up, and she was very much raised in a Catholic home. Her aunts were nuns, and so there was a lot of formalized religion. So we all went to Catholic school, and yet if my grandmother would take my mom to a faith healing thing at a church or something, my mom would feel the energy and go down. And so she was very highly energetically sensitive. And my grandma would say that she was trying to get attention. But on the face of things, everything was very normal. You know, she was a room mother for us sometimes, and my dad was working all the time and trying to provide, working full time and trying to go to school and raise 5 kids and, 2 adults and a 2-bedroom rambler. So that's a picture of how I grew up. But with the ideas of the unseen, I clearly remember at a young age when my mom would say, I wonder if we're ever going to get to see the wheat. And that's how she referred to a UFO. Wheat. Isn't that great? And so when there was the space program and stuff, my dad was highly interested in the space program, and my mom would say, I wonder how many wheats there might be, or, something like that. So it was something that I remember and recalled thinking, like that just shifted a little bit of my belief that there was something else. And so I was really interested in the space program when I was young. But on an overall, I was raised with the idea of formalized things, like there was a priest, and then you went through the priest to go to the next level. Many of you are nodding. And so, there was always the middleman kind of trying to bring us to our connections. And then it was through prayer where you could connect to, and then we kind of came into the worlds of meditation, where we started to get our head quiet enough that we felt different things and could have access to different information or answers to things. And so that was, really a part of things as well. And so, and then you move into, I would have, somebody say, let the angels wrap their arms around you, And then when I met some native people, they would say, you need to call in the wolf to protect you. So that it started to have different ideas, that there was all these different people that had beliefs that we were somehow protected and there was something there for us. So I think that's very helpful, because otherwise we're down here thinking we're doing everything ourselves, So to bring belief for people is huge. If you did not get that, you still had this capacity in which to do it now, and that really comes through one of the favorite things that I love is to look at imagination. And everybody has the capacity to imagine, right? Do you remember laying in the grass or looking up at clouds and seeing formations? And did you see ones that your friends didn't? You'd be like, there's a this. Are you kidding me? Well, that's our reality now today, too, isn't it, for many of us? Did you feel that? But that is the thing, is we're all experiencing life differently, and it's all running through the way that we're creating reality and what we're able to see. But imagination is like the powerful access to the field. It's a threshold that you can use to walk through. So John O'Donohue is a great speaker, but he talks about, we came into the world, like priests and priestesses of imagination. Because we had so many kids and we played a lot together and there was no technology, we lived on our imagination. We had a swamp in the back of our house. And so we would go down there and we would be going through jungles and we'd have to save, things. And so then the rocks were some kind of dinosaur egg, and it had to get saved before civilization took over. And, we were like constantly creating. In the house, I remember my sister and I, we would have feather pillows that were very loose feathers. So we would take the pillowcase and we would maneuver it different ways and make different hats. And we'd walk around and we'd be these different characters. We did a lot of different things, and I'm sure everybody did too, huh? So what I think this is one of the most powerful statements where he's saying that one of the most important things we can do for people is to awaken their imagination or reawaken it. Because that is a piece that allows us, especially if we want to start experiencing multidimensional realms and assistance and energies or frequencies or whatever you want to call it in the quantum realities, we have to be able to know that this isn't all there is. And so, looking at that, so he says, imagination is more important than facts. If you look at space, and if you look up at a star and you get stuck on a certain star, are there not a million others? So that's the same thing about everything in life. You get stuck on a certain people, oh my goodness, there's a lot of other people in the world. You are stuck on a healing modality, there's a lot of other healing modalities if you're not progressing. That we want to keep exploring, We explore, we need to keep using and moving and doing things that bring in these other things, because if we get locked on the one thing, then it's like you don't get to create another. So if you would for a moment, turn to your neighbor, and if you would be willing to share with them some kind of thing that you used to play with your imagination when you were young. What is something you used to do with your imagination? So just do that for a moment. Oh. Now, when you're doing that, the energy in the room is like this. So, anybody have a good one?
Building forts.
Building forts, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Potato house.
Potato house. Whoa. There's a new one. Cowboys and Indians, yeah.
My cats were pet dragons.
Cats were pet dragons, she says. Playing house, dolls, dress up, yeah. Being monsters, being superheroes, trying to fly, dangerously so. We used to go off of the roof of things into snowbanks, my poor mom. So yeah, it's just so amazing. Now, that didn't take any effort to do that stuff either, did it? Because it was so fun, and just the possibility, and even just the feeling of it, whether or not you were truly managing being the superhero. That it didn't matter because it's the feeling, right? Yeah. So that feeling is the shift in vibration that allows you then to activate the vibration within the field. You know? So it's the same process as when we played, as when we want to create something in our life. Is that part of creating the feeling and imagining what it's like. So many of you know about law of attraction and you know things about that, but it's just that simplicity that and that imagination is that doorway to it, you know. Now, I just have to tell you a funny thing that happened when I did this slide. So this slide is made up of 3 pictures the same of each thing to get it to be across, okay? So the lower one, I wish you could see this, but right here, if this is brighter, this forms a person. Now, that was only because I flipped one of the slides, and then all of a sudden I looked, and there was a person in here. Because when it wasn't flipped, it kind of seemed too dark. Like this side, I didn't, you know. And so it was like I flipped it. So let me see if I can get it on this next one. Okay, so I started with this one, and it looked like this to this. Then I flipped this one up here, over here, and then there's a person in here. And then if this was lighter, which I don't know how, can you see the faces in there though? Because there's faces, there's 3 faces in it. Yeah, I'm sorry that it's not showing. But now, some of you could just say she's making this up and then we're all agreeing with her. No. But really, this is kind of the way life works, is as I'm doing it, all of a sudden I get kind of this, I'm creating a slide and then I get this nudge to flip this one. And I was like, why would I have to flip that one? Oh, maybe it's because it's too dark or too light or too something, you know, when I'm doing something. And then when I flipped it, all of a sudden 3 faces are there. And I was like, thank you. Somebody's working with me. So I'm sorry you can't see it so well, but just the example of how stuff is always trying to help us. And that when you're looking for things, every now and then you can actually, you know, your awareness is open that you start noticing things. So, you know, Yvette spoke, you know, the first week of the month. And so these were the things she talked about, is that we develop these different aspects that help us. And so that's on this kind of realm here. So let's say that we start out in life and our belief first is that all of our needs and protection or anything gets met by our caregivers, right? And then, you know, Jody was talking about the light, you know, that we each have, and I've spoken many times about that core health and that essence, that light within us. And so we go from kind of needing everything externally to starting to know we have some stuff internally. And then we start to see our relationship with that internal is the same in connection with that which is greater than us, right? And so it's kind of like a little evolutionary process that we experience. And then once you know that, then you start playing with it. You know? So you know that you exist within the field, and the field is abundant, and there's tons of possibilities within that divine universe or cosmos, whatever you want to call it. And you know that that's all out there for you, and now all I have to do is connect to it. You know? And I have to start playing with it. And I say playing with it because things don't work too well when you're working at it. Because when you're working and trying, then your vibration is serious. And that's a not as friendly vibration to the field in that seriousness. However, it will still pull things in. So I kind of was thinking of it this way, as like the field, like imagine all these particles and waves out within the field, and they're all out there just hanging out there. And then when we start to have a desire or a feeling, a dominant feeling about something, then it's like they go, oh, I got a job now. And so imagine that each of the colors might represent something that could be created for you, and that each of the colors might be a different frequency. So let's say when you're in this beautiful light frequency, then all of a sudden all those little light beings, all the little light particles conspire on your behalf. Does that make sense? So now you can see that there's always other ones hanging out in the field waiting for the next thing. So I remember that when I used to talk to some people, they would say, well, you know, I don't know if I can ask for that much. You know, like there was a shortage, or you only got an allotment of how much you could create. And so it's like, no, there's always more hanging out there waiting for a job. And then there's also always other ones that are waiting for the next feeling. So let's say you start having a denser feeling, then all the other dense ones come and conspire. Like they have a job now. And if you notice, they all have smiles on them, whether they're dense or light, because there isn't a moral judgment to energy. There isn't like the bad guys. There's just energy that's going to align and support you at whatever place you're feeling and whatever beliefs you're offering, whatever thoughts you're offering. And so I love that idea is that, oh, I just sent something up. So sometimes I'll send up some thought that's not so great or healthy or, you know, in my best interest, and I'll go, erase that. As soon as I catch it, I'll be like, oh, no, erase that. That is really not what I'm intending. Or, you know what, I just blew off some steam, but it didn't mean anything, so you don't need to create anything around that. You know, because everybody used to say every thought is matched by the field. Then you're walking around paranoid, right? It's like, oh my God, what's going to come up? I just did that, you know. We don't want to be that, you know, but you want to be able to have a dominant vibration, a dominant feeling state in which you're creating reality from. So, you know, maybe I've shown this picture before, but when we're little, we have so much more of an appreciation or just a feeling with energy. And this is a picture from a woman that I was working with one time, and she was concerned because her son always wanted to go in his room. And she was, you know, nervous that he was going to be too much of an introvert. And I was like, well, why don't you take your camera with you and take a few pictures in his room? Because I could feel that there was something that he liked in his room. And she took these pictures. So who wouldn't want to go into their room if it was like that, huh? So he knew where a nice feeling was, and he was going to go with it regardless of whether the adults were pointing him that way. Can you imagine if we were that attuned all the time? See, that's the beauty, is we had that, and then we many times cover it up, get kind of fork in the road and go the wrong way. But eventually you will always come back here, because your soul's longing and your well-being is always going to try to work on your behalf. So even if you have that Y in the road and you go the way off your life purpose, you might take a bit of a journey, huh? But then you'll eventually get back on. But when we were kids, we listened faster. So, yeah, I'm sorry, this next time I don't know why these are darker. Maybe the day is darker outside. But this is a picture of me when my dad had recently passed when I did this, and I was working with my mom just to kind of clear some of the grief. And I went like this because I could feel something, because I'm a feeler. I'm not so much somebody who sees everything, but I'm a feeler. And so I went like this because I could feel that there was beautiful peace right here, and I went like this, and there's an orb in my hand there. And then I just brought that in. So if I didn't have the belief that there was assistance for me, I probably couldn't do as much. So whether you ever see or feel or anything, you want to still reach for it. Now you guys will all be walking out today like this. No, really, it'll be like antennas, you know. But it is that way, is that there's assistance and it's there for the asking, you know, that we have access to it, but we have to believe it. Now this is just a quick thing, and you don't have to read it all, I'll just tell you about it. But a client of mine and friend, she was going through cancer, and so we have a group of people, and we set and hold intentions for each other. So her blood had gotten off, and then she called and said, could you guys help with getting my blood back in shape because they won't do the next chemo. Now she had done all kinds of healing, but there was still a problem with a form of her cancer. So then she was able to see that it might make sense to do some complementary care. So she did some chemo, and this was really interesting because she says, right in this part here, so another week's gone by, I haven't done the chemo. You guys were so great at increasing my platelets that their level went back to better than chemo, before chemo. Her platelets were higher than they were before she had chemo. The hemoglobin started to return too, but the white blood count dropped. So she didn't have the neutrophils to fight the bacteria, so they wouldn't do it. So the nurse said, well, this is so unusual. Everything usually grows together. And then this person says, I just smiled. Because she was always trying to tell them that she had other ways that she was working as well. You know, she'd be like, I have these tribes, they're all setting intentions, they're all holding the highest outcomes, you know, and she would talk about things that way, and they would like glaze over. They said that she had to do 6 rounds. She did 4, and everything was totally clear. They didn't want to remove the port that she had. They wanted her to keep the port in for a year in case it came back. So she was like, that doesn't really make sense for me, because why would I let my body know that there's a possibility that it's going to come back? So I think I'm going to get that out of there. Well, you never know. It could be painful to re-put it, put it back in there. She goes, well, it could be painful to create the cancer again. Isn't that interesting? So we like to do things that are setting the intentions. So a lot of times, I won't even do that, but so it's this part of we are a collective, and you can get to know each other. And then when you're in challenged positions, you send out a request for intentions. And so ours for her a lot of times were to call in the high. This is always my standard, is to call in the highest outcome, because you don't know what somebody's outcome should be, and you don't know the form that it will come in. So it's that calling in the highest outcome. Wrapping the medical team in light. Calling the experts from the unseen to influence the medical field, to influence people to be able to access their skills while they work on me. If they're going to take something out, I ask, take out any anger or resentment that I have in my system too while you're at it. Because I'm going to ask it to piggyback on that and get rid of it. Why not use it? Do you see? That's imaginative. Going to ask that I imagine not having any symptoms or side effects. Because why wouldn't we? So it's interesting, isn't it? So there are very practical things that we can do that are in constant play with the belief that we have about the possibility of this experience. And so I love to play in that way. Forgot to talk about that a little bit. So multiple dimensions. So, it's that part of the middle picture is an Alex Gray picture. He's so good at being able to show how energy runs in the body, but also how there's all these grid systems that are hooked up to us. So if you think of those as infrastructure within the field. And so, I know I've talked about this before, but if you shift in your feeling or you shift in something, your level of understanding, then you want to call in the grid that supports that. because it's like electricity. You know, if you have a bunch of refrigerators and air conditioners and things like that, now you need a different level of, you know, circuitry to run all that, or you'll be blowing fuses, right? So imagine that we have all of those that we can hop on and that we share grids. So like you wouldn't all be here if we didn't share a grid. So each of us in this room run on this grid for some reason, and then we all have other ones that we're connecting with each other. And if you look at the idea of multidimensionality in terms of other dimensions, or people will call it parallel universes, is we're also existing in other places. So these ideas that there's, like when you go to bed at night and you dream, are you not sometimes in other places? And can you like see yourself as having all these different skills sometimes? Does anybody have something that you have experienced in your nighttime that you're just like, wow, what was that? Oh, wait 1 second. Let's see if we can.
So 2 nights ago, I had a dream where I was in a room with this other person, and we were doing somersaults in the air and just kind of flying around. But it was the first time I ever experienced like being able to float in midair and just kind of like fly and then do a somersault and just like be playful in that regard.
Wonderful. I'll have whatever she's having. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Can you wait 1 second?
I have had dreams that were so alive and so in technicolor that I actually thought, when I woke up in the morning, I thought that this was another one of me living somewhere else in another time and place.
Yes.
Because they're just too colorful and too strong.
Yeah.
But they seem to have like a running strain that are kind of my personality stream kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But I thought, you know, I even consider the possibility that I'm living in several places at the same time.
Yeah, you are. Does anybody watch Outlander? A bunch of people, yeah. You know, it's that kind of thing that we're existing in many different dimensions. And so why talk about that? Because again, you want to use your imagination around that. Because then you want to say, if you have a problem on this level, is there another dimension where I don't have that problem? And could you bring in the wisdom of how I unhooked it or don't have it? If you have something that's a problem and you say, is there another dimension where I don't have that? Can I copy that system? Like say I have something going on with my knee. And I'll think, well, maybe there's a place where I don't have a knee problem. So why wouldn't I just go and ask? Because I like to play. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get results every time you do this, but you'll get less results if you don't play with it, you know? So I like to play. So I'll say, like, I wonder if there's a place where I don't have this knee problem, and then I ask that I kind of go up into that place and take a copy of that system and bring it in and imprint it on my knee. So you know, it's this idea that we can play with these. Now, I know it's a little woo-woo, and but so was, you know, the Jetsons were woo-woo back years ago. So, you know, we can play with those. Now, this was thinking of stained glass windows, is there's a structure around how the glass is formed, right? So if we took that window down, that glass isn't going anywhere if it's in that structure, right? So that's the way our systems and our lives that we create, they're not going anywhere if we have this constant structure. And the structure comes from the thoughts that we have, the beliefs that we hold, and the feeling or frequencies that we hold. So we have to be willing to like move something in that structure just a little bit, and then the matrix starts to change. So that's the place, because nothing's going to move unless we move it. So it's that shifting of routine. You know, you have to inform the universe that you're ready for something different. And it might just be something very simple, driving home a different way. Wearing a color you don't normally wear. Could be something simple. Because then your energy body, your field has, like in quantum physics, there's this talking about collapsing the field. So you hold, like, let's say, an energy field, and like Richard Bartlett in Matrix Energetics, we learn to take 2 points within that field and to use your consciousness and drop it within the 2 points, and then it will collapse the field and offer something new. So it's like pop the bubble, something can come in. But if we have this system that is always held, then we're going to have the same thing. And some of us like that. We like predictability, even if it doesn't feel good. But imagine you could have unfolding and expansion and everything and have that be predictable. Like, to me, I love having the predictability that as I expand, my life gets nicer. As I expand, there's more mystery. As I expand, it's like I get to connect in different ways. That's predictable that I want. Not always accepted, approved of. But I'm okay with that too. Because sometimes, that's just the best any of us can do. It's that all of us have that place where we don't see something yet. So then we just have to keep asking, I hope I can see something. I hope something occurs soon. So let's just do a little bit. So the idea, the more you play, the more you experience. So I love to kind of think about things, shows, things that have expanded me, things that are different. I like sci-fi. I like to read young adult kid books that have magic stuff in them all the time. Because then I'm going to use those ideas and I'm going to play. So let's just take a moment to do a meditation. I'd like to do just a little bit of an activation to kind of, if you're willing, to go back into that place and maybe dial up the imagination and dial up the frequency for you to play more multidimensionally. So if you would, just try to get comfortable in your chair. All right. So if you would just close your eyes. I'm going to work the energy in the room a bit. And just see if you can't find that place to align to, the place that lines you up with your original blueprint. And do this by sending a cord out through the top of your head, connecting to the cosmic field, the divine or the creator. And imagine that you were hooked up and funneled through this cord into this amazing earth suit to experience this lifetime in this place of time and space. And imagine that life force comes in through the top and runs down through your system, allowing the energy that animates your life, connecting to the earth and Pachamama, creating the connection here to this planet. And imagine as you came in, this energy was uncontaminated, with no interference, without resistance, and without any distortion. Just imagine the breath of life is like the energy that ignites all those particles and waves inside your molecules, your cells, informing your system. And that the energy was way more expanded in its understanding than your physical body. And imagine how you came in with that imagination, that desire to co-create your universe, your experiences with people, work, gifts. That imagination has a dial to it. And that for some reason, not everybody, but some of us turned that dial down at some point in your life. And innocently got hooked into the structures of form. So imagine that dial being like a dimmer switch. And I'd like for you to locate it in your system, wherever you find it, in your imagination. We're going to activate it. Bring new wiring to it. We're going to detach any faulty, corroded wiring. We're going to clean the connections. Hook it back up. Energy flow directly from the field or from the planet. I want you to take your consciousness and adjust the dial. Just do it slowly, finding the place of comfort. You don't ever want to put something wide open. Of energy within the field is so grand. You want to slowly turn the dial. Also like for you to now imagine that there's also a dial for how open you are to the field or your guides, the mystery and the Creator. And now adjust that. Comfortably, the energy now running through your imagination to create the pictures and the vibrations, the frequencies of that which you want to create, and that which you want to experience that already exists of you. That your higher self direct to find the alignment point. Imagine the syncing of those two, the energy and the imagination. We're going to ask that your system calibrate to the changes. That it finds its balance. Also ask for the structures and grids to come in to support it. We also ask that the influx of frequency and vibration go out to the planet. That it changes the matrix in ways that work for us and for all people. Imagine the circuitry firing with ease. Frequencies felt from the field, and the readiness of all the particles and collaborative energies within the field to assist you and bring you what you're looking for. Slowly take your consciousness back into your body. Floor underneath your feet, back of your chair, and thank your guides and this community to support your work and your reception. Slowly open your eyes. Can I share that, Edmund? Absolutely. Edmund says to me, hang on tight, Cindi, in case I take off. You bet I'd be hanging on. I'll go too. All right, so in the spirit of the power of the collective, I welcome anybody to kind of throw out your intentions of what you would like to imagine, either something for yourself or the planet or the people, or anything that you might want intentions for, because we've got this whole group to get the energy behind and calling in. Imagine this many people calling in those collaborative components. It'd be nice, huh? Yeah. So, I'll start, that all people have food and a home. Uncontested unemployment. Wonderful.
That we have a healthy climate.
We have a healthy climate. Magic. Sorry? Love prevails. Thank you. Peace on earth and ascension, yeah. Who said something about creation over here? Oh, imagination. Okay, that's the same thing, huh? Playful creation, yeah. Yes, clean water. Trust.
Infinite courage to express.
Infinite courage to express. Two sides to every issue. Probably about 10 sides to every issue. Yes.
Acceptance of people.
Acceptance. acceptance of all people. Well, let's do that all together, huh? 1, 2, 3. Love. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Imagination. Imagination. 1, 2, 3. Ascension. Ascension. Wonderful. Thank you. Woohoo! Bless you for being here. Thank you.